Chapter 4. Sects and Violets. Sometime later, Sarah and Johnathan arrive at the Maidstone County Archives.
Honey, did Miles look different to you today?
Johnathan thinks for a moment.
No, I don't think so. We've only just met him yesterday. Why?
Something in his eyes when he was talking about my mother and the murders. Oh, I don't know, maybe I'm imagining things. Let's go in.
They approach the front desk. A lady welcomed them with a smile.
Good afternoon, how may I help you?
Hello, we're wondering if you have any microfilm newspapers from the 1890s.
Yes, we have many newspapers from that time on microfilm. Which month are you interested in? It might help find the information you're looking for faster.
Sarah looks around the room, satisfied no one is listening or watching her, then lowers her voice.
October, the Ashbourne Murders.
Ah, yes. Come this way.
The woman leads them away to a row of 3 microfilm machines.
Please have a seat. I'll be right back.
She leaves them, goes to a row of file cabinets, opens one, removes a small canister. Returns to Sarah and Johnathan, inserted it into a machine.
There you go, dear,
she said, returning back to the desk. Sarah looks at Johnathan.
Well, here we go.
Johnathan just nods. Story images are displayed on the screen. She clicked to next image, then again and again, until finally.
The Kent Herald and County Advertiser. Saturday, November 8th, 1890. Appalling tragedy at Ashbourne Manor. 12 persons slain, trusted servant charged. Society in shock. Little Washford, Kent. A calamity of the most dreadful character has befallen this quiet district, the like of which has not been witnessed in living memory. Ashbourne Manor, long the seat of the respected Ashbourne family, has become the scene of wholesale slaughter, leaving 12 persons dead and 1 man in custody. The victims, guests of Mr. Ambrose Ashbourne, had assembled on the evening of October 31st for what has been described as a private dinner and subsequent spiritual demonstration, a practice increasingly fashionable among certain circles despite clerical disapproval. At some hour shortly after midnight, the household descended into chaos. Authorities report that bodies were discovered in various parts of the East Wing, many bearing wounds consistent with a sharp instrument. Furniture had been overturned, candles extinguished, and evidence of violent struggle was apparent throughout the premises. Butler found with body. Suspicion fell immediately upon the manservant, Mr. Alfred Whitlock, long employed at the manor and regarded as a steady and capable domestic. He was apprehended on the premises by local constables at approximately 4 o'clock in the morning, allegedly in the act of dragging one of the deceased across the floor toward a service passage. Inspector Hale of the County Constabulary stated, "The man offered no satisfactory explanation for his conduct. His clothing was stained, and the scene presented evidence of deliberate concealment." Whitlock was taken into custody without resistance. Witnesses describe him as composed, though unnaturally pale. Motive unknown. No clear motive has yet been established. Theft appears unlikely as valuables remain untouched. Some speculate upon a sudden madness, while others whisper of grievances harbored over years of service. Authorities have declined to comment on these theories. Reverend Josiah Carlyle, who had been expected among the guests but was detained elsewhere, described the affair as a sobering reminder that man's greatest dangers arise not from spirits, but from the corruption of the human heart. The spiritual gathering. Considerable attention has been given to the nature of the evening's intended entertainment. Several correspondents confirmed that a professional medium had been engaged to conduct a seance following dinner. Whether this gathering bears any relation to the crime remains uncertain. A spokesman for the diocese condemned such practices, stating that they invite disorder of mind and worse. Community in fear. Residents of Little Washford are said to be deeply shaken. Ashbourne Manor, once a source of local employment and charity, now stands silent, its gates secured by the authorities. One villager, declining to be named, remarked, "There's something not right about that house now. Best leave it be." Legal proceedings forthcoming. Whitlock has been remanded to Maidstone Jail pending formal charges. A preliminary hearing is expected within the fortnight, after which the case will proceed to the assizes. Should the allegations be sustained, the crime would rank among the most heinous in the annals of the county.
Sarah and Johnathan both stare at the screen.
Wow.
Johnathan manages to say.
I know, it didn't look good for him. Miles was right. How did he have time to write in the journal?
I'm not sure, but is there any more? Maybe the trial?
Oh, good idea. Let's look.
A few more clicks forward.
Here it is.
The Kent Herald and County Advertiser. Friday, March the 13th, 1891. The Ashbourne Manor case. Alfred Whitlock, convicted of multiple murders. Sentence of death passed. Maidstone. The long-anticipated trial arising from the shocking events at Ashbourne Manor concluded yesterday at the Spring Assizes, bringing formal resolution, though little comfort, to one of the most dreadful crimes in the recent history of this county. Alfred Whitlock, aged 58, for many years butler to the late Mr. Ambrose Ashbourne, stood accused of the willful murder of 12 persons assembled at the manor on the night of October 31st last. Courtroom proceedings. The trial, presided over by Mr. Justice Fielding, drew extraordinary public attention. The galleries were filled each day, with many turned away for lack of space. Testimony occupied 4 full days. The prosecution laid before the court a narrative of calculated violence committed by a man in a position of intimate trust. Medical evidence indicated that the victims had died from wounds inflicted by a sharp instrument, delivered with considerable force. No sign of outside intrusion was discovered, and doors were found secured from within. Inspector Hale of the County Constabulary described discovering the accused upon the premises in the early hours of November 1st, engaged in moving a body toward a service corridor, his clothing bearing visible stains. The prisoner's defense. Whitlock, who conducted himself with notable composure throughout the proceedings, denied the charges in their entirety. Through counsel, he asserted that he had been acting in a desperate attempt to secure the dead and preserve order following what he described as a calamity beyond ordinary explanation. He claimed to have been the only surviving member of the household staff present in the East Wing at the time. The court listened in silence as Whitlock offered a halting account of confusion, darkness, and panic within the manor after midnight. However, he declined, or was unable, to provide a clear account of the assailant responsible. When pressed as to why he had not immediately summoned assistance, he replied only,
"I did what I believed necessary."
This statement, delivered without apparent emotion, produced murmurs among those assembled. The question of motive. Counsel for the Crown suggested that resentment, long service without advancement, or sudden derangement might explain the crimes. Evidence of financial distress was introduced, though defense counsel argued it was inconclusive. Rumors concerning the evening's intended séance were briefly mentioned, but played no significant part in the legal arguments. Verdict and sentence. After deliberating for less than 2 hours, the jury returned a verdict of guilty. Upon being asked if he had anything further to say before sentence was pronounced, Whitlock stood straight and replied in a firm voice,
"I have spoken what truth I may. I pray God forgive those who cannot hear it."
Mr. Justice Fielding, in passing sentence, described the crime as of an enormity scarcely conceivable, emphasizing the betrayal of trust inherent in a servant turning upon his master and guests. He then donned the black cap and pronounced the sentence of death by hanging.
We need to read more of that journal.
Yes, you're absolutely right. They might have hanged the wrong man. However, there is nothing we can do for him now.
Sarah closed her eyes.
We might be able to clear his name. It's the least we can do.
Sarah nodded.
Yes, let's go back to the B&B.
They leave the archives, hailed a cab. The ride back to the B&B was quiet, both Sarah and Johnathan lost in thoughts. The cab stops, Sarah gets out, Johnathan pays the fare. They enter the building, the landlady gives them a cheerful smile. Sarah stops, asks if she'd put the kettle on for them.
I'll bring it up for you, my darlings.
Once in their room, Sarah removes the journal from her bag, places it on the table. Johnathan stares at it for a moment.
Well, it's not going to read itself.
Reaches for the journal, a knock at the door. Sarah smiles.
Go ahead, I'll get the door.
Sarah opens the door. The landlady is there with a tray.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, dearie. If you need anything else, don't hesitate to ask.
With that, she turned and walks down the hallway. Sarah places the tray on the table, Johnathan already reading the journal.
These events I set down as faithfully as memory permits, though I would gladly forget them. If this account be found, let it stand as proof that what occurred that night was no madness of mine. When the lights failed and Mr. Ashbourne fell, confusion seized the company. For several seconds no one moved, as though each feared to disturb the darkness further. When at last a lamp was brought, it became clear that our host had sustained a mortal wound to the chest. Dr. Beaumont confirmed the fact of death with professional certainty. There was no hope of revival.
At my urging, the guests were conducted from the east parlour to the drawing room, where the fire yet burned. None wished to remain in the chamber where the deed had been done. I secured the door behind us.
The company numbered 13. Mr. Ashbourne lay where he had fallen. Their distress was considerable, though varied in character. Some wept, some argued, and some sat in silence as if stunned. Professor Kent rejected all suggestion of supernatural agency and insisted upon human violence. Mr. Hargrove said little. I left them briefly under the pretense of preparing tea, intending instead to confer privately with Mr. Hargrove, who followed me into the corridor. It was then he confessed to me a matter of the gravest consequence. Earlier in the evening, by arrangement with Mr. Ashbourne, a paralytic agent was to have been administered to simulate death during the séance, the better to produce a convincing demonstration. Mr. Hargrove stated that the substance had not yet been delivered to our host. He claimed Mr. Ashbourne had postponed it, wishing first to observe the company's reaction. Therefore, the body in the parlour was not the result of artifice. The wound was real. Mr. Hargrove appeared genuinely shaken by this realization and protested that he had no part in any violence. Whether this be true, I cannot say. Judging the situation beyond the capacity of the household to manage, I resolved to send at once for the police. I went to the servants' quarters and roused my eldest son, Thomas, who was sleeping in the adjoining chamber. I instructed him to dress without delay, saddle the mare, and ride to Little Washford to fetch the constable. When he demanded to know the cause, I told him only that there had been a murder, and that speed was essential. He departed within minutes, though the storm had grown violent, and I feared for his safety. I returned thereafter to the drawing room to reassure the company, but before re-entering, I felt compelled to verify the condition of the body. Taking a lamp, I went back alone to the east parlour. The sight that met me there shall not soon be erased. Mr. Ashbourne lay as before, but the room bore signs of disturbance I could not account for. Chairs had shifted, though no one had re-entered to my knowledge. The air felt colder than the corridor behind me, and the candle at the center of the rug had rolled several inches from where it had fallen. I examined our host as best I could. There was no pulse, no breath, and the wound was of a nature that no physician could mistake. It was then I perceived that we were not alone in the house. Whether by sound or instinct, I cannot say, but a certainty came upon me that something had entered the room after the others had departed. I withdrew at once, securing the door behind me. Later, I discover the bodies of Sir Edmund Blackwood and Miss Eleanor Marchmont slain in a manner no less violent than our host. How these additional murders occurred in the interval I cannot account for, save that the house itself seemed altered, as though some malign force had been set loose within it. If I am judged for what followed, let it be known that every action I took thereafter was in the hope of preserving life and restoring order, though I fear I succeeded in neither. God forgive us all for what was unleashed that night. Alfred Whitlock. Thank you for joining us for this chapter. We hope you enjoyed it.
Please join us next week for Chapter 5, Blood on the Clock Face.
Please feel free to leave a comment, a like, and subscribe to never miss a chapter.